You're listening to episode 59 of A Whole New You podcast. On today's show, we're talking with Dr. Travis Zigler, an optometrist who, along with his wife, founded Eye Love, an organization aimed at helping dry eye sufferers. Dr. Travis explains why inflammation is at the root cause of not only dry eyes, but a multitude of other health conditions and illnesses. He gives us tangible ways to reduce inflammation through diet, lifestyle modifications, and supplementation. Dr. Travis also discusses his charity work and their mission to help folks who can't afford or obtain eyeglasses. Dr. Travis provided so much great information, and he offers a free PDF ebook on his site, dryeyebook.com. That's DRYEYEBOOK.com. Welcome to A Whole New You podcast. I'm your co-host, Kim Maravich. I'm a registered nurse and author of the book 360 Health. I'm joined by my dear friend, Lori Biddle, a health and wellness coach certified through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Our show exists to inspire and empower women to take charge of their health, with weekly tips and conversation about self-care, mindset, nutrition, fitness, and clean living. Please keep in mind that the material provided in this podcast is intended as general information only and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We're thrilled to have you here. Let's get to the show. I'd like to first read a 5-star review that we received through iTunes. This is from Grow Ganch, and it's titled Balanced, Helpful Information for Women. This podcast is beautifully well-rounded and touches on all aspects of health and wellness, with a special focus on real life issues pertinent to women. The hosts are down to earth and relatable, which I love. I'm a happy subscriber. Thank you so very much for taking the time to leave us this special review. Reviews and subscribers help boost our rankings in iTunes, and they help people find our show who might not already know about it. So if you are listening right now, why don't you pause the show and head over to iTunes? There's a clickable link in the show notes. You can subscribe there and also leave us a rating and review. If you do, we'll be sure to read your review on a future episode. Now, let's get to today's show. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I am pleased to have Dr. Travis Zigler joining me on the show. Dr. Travis graduated in 2010 from the Ohio State University College of Optometry and with magna cum laude honors. He is the founder of Eye Love, eyelovethesun.com, whose mission is to heal 1 million dry eye sufferers naturally. Dr. Travis and his wife, Dr. Jenna Zigler, use the profits from Eye Love to fund free and low-cost clinics in Jamaica and in the U.S. They also started a charity called the Eye Love Cares Foundation, which provides exams, glasses, and sunglasses for those in need, free education, and scholarships for students that align with their mission. Previously, Dr. Travis and Dr. Jenna owned 2 optometry practices, which they sold in 2017 to focus on their online efforts. Dr. Travis enjoys reading to his son, Jude, traveling to Jamaica, and playing the ukulele while he drinks his morning coffee. Well, that sounds like a wonderful morning, Dr. Travis.
Well, the funny thing about that is I actually gave up caffeine, and so it's now decaf coffee.
Well, it's still part of the ritual, right?
Exactly. It's a very relaxing thing to do is drink coffee, and I've switched from I need to update my bio to reflect my decaf coffee now.
Yeah, you do, right? But I think that sounds very nice. I can just picture you like in a hammock in Jamaica, playing your ukulele. Sounds great. Well, welcome to the show, and I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit more about yourself and where you live before we get started.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on, and thanks for this opportunity. I really appreciate being able to talk to your audience and just putting our message out in the world. As you said, we're trying to heal 1 million people that suffer from dry eye, and we're trying to heal them naturally. And so that's kind of our mission in life. But let's take a couple steps back and just kind of give you my background. I graduated from Ohio State University College of Optometry in 2010. My wife graduated from the same college in 2011. We actually practiced here in Columbus for about 5 years. And I felt like there was just something missing. And so I even practiced with my uncle and my cousin. And so there was Dr. Zigler, and Zigler. So not to confuse anybody. But then what we noticed, I just felt like we needed to do something else. And so my wife and I did the 3 things you're not supposed to do. We quit our jobs, we moved across the country, and we started businesses. So 3 huge life stressors all at once within a week's time. And we moved down to South Carolina. We started 2 practices. And when you start 2 practices, things can be a little slow at first. And so we also started this online business called I Love. And what happened was all 3 businesses were growing, but the online space, we just noticed we could make more of an impact on people. And I could give an education or a lecture or a seminar or do a YouTube video, and I can reach millions of people versus when I'm in a chair, I'm one-on-one with somebody and I'm giving the same kind of talk over and over and over again. And so what I realized with this is if we go all in with this online presence, we can help more people. And so we ended up selling our 2 practices and focusing all in on this online business. So that was over a 5-year span where we lived in South Carolina. It was about 4.5 years. And we were going to move to Austin, Texas. Well, family has this way of bringing you back. And so we ended up in Columbus, and that's where we are right now. And we were here for a year just focusing on our online business. But then winter hit, and we're going to move to Austin, Texas in a year. And so now we don't practice anymore, and we just focus all of our efforts online. We have coaching around dry eye. We have a book. And then we just kind of focus on healing people naturally through our communities and through our YouTube channel.
Well, that's amazing. I think being online in this day and age is of utmost importance. And like you said, you have such a gift to offer to people, and reaching the masses is so much more effective. We had talked before we hit record that you also have a YouTube channel called The Dry Eye Show. And YouTube, of course, is the way of the future. Both of my boys want to be YouTubers. That's like their goal in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a very popular space. And so I'm excited to direct our listeners to that as well. But let's go back to your bio for a minute. And in your bio, we mentioned that you founded the company I Love. It's geared primarily towards helping dry eye sufferers, which is something that I personally have dealt with. And again, we spoke off of air that this was going back, at least 10 to 15 years ago. I suffer from rosacea, which is managed now of my skin, and surprisingly was diagnosed with something called ocular rosacea, which you know a lot about. But I had never heard of anything like that before. And it really affected my quality of life. So I can attest firsthand to how having this condition can really just deplete your energy, deplete your ability to interact with the world. And so I would love for you to talk with us first about some of the causes of dry eye, if you would be willing to, and just why this can be so problematic.
Yeah. So I'll also take a step back and kind of take you into our journey of how we came up with how we kind of manage dry eye. And
Okay.
my belief is that dry eye is caused from, it has multiple causes, but the majority of cases that we see, dry eye is caused from inflammation. Inflammation in your body, which then overflows and it forms as a symptom of dry eye. And so if we start to think of dry eye caused by inflammation, then we start to treat it a lot differently. And the reason we started, and that's what our book is all about, Rethinking Dry Eye Treatment, is it's all about tackling your systemic or your body inflammation. And the reason that we started this is because we were diagnosed with infertility and we were told we could never have kids. And we went through every single fertility treatment that Western medicine has to offer. And so we did everything up to IVF. And when we got to IVF, something in me just told me that it wasn't right for us. And it's a great product and it works really well for a lot of people, but it just wasn't for us. And I just felt that. And so I said, let's explore other options. This was the day of our IVF appointment. And so my wife and I went and we explored Eastern medicine. And so she started getting acupuncture. We already ate healthy, but we changed just a couple things in our diet and we were pregnant in 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so that led me to like, that just made me question everything that we were taught. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have a patient that has dry eye and I'm giving them Restasis drops. But what if, so Restasis is a drop that decreases inflammation on the surface of the eye. But what if we figured out what caused that inflammation in the first place and addressed that instead? And that's the whole basis of Eastern medicine. And so we started exploring it with our customers online. And we sent them through this, we call it the Dry Eye Bootcamp Challenge. And it's a 8-week coaching thing that we do with people. And it was just all natural treatments. So like switching your breakfast to a green smoothie and drinking more water. Those are just two examples of 2 of the weeks. And we, the results were amazing. The results were better than any eye drop that's prescription or anything that we do for dry eye. And so that made me start questioning, like it made me question what we're really treating. And so what I noticed though is with these people that we started treating them more systemically is that they told me their arthritis was gone. They told me that my favorite testimonial ever is I have had a crick in my neck for 25 years and it is absolutely gone. Eczema was clearing up, rosacea was clearing up. And so we realized we were onto something pretty big here. And it's nothing like we didn't change anything. We just changed our approach to how we manage dry eye. This is not anything new. A lot of people do this. So the causes of dry eye in 95% of the cases are inflammation. There are other things like LASIK, refractive surgery like PRK, cataract surgery. Those can all cause problems with dry eye as well. You can also have some like nerve damage that can cause dry eye, but for the majority of the cases that we see, it's inflammation. And so just battling that inflammation systemically will in turn lead to less dry eye. And you're a testimonial as well, not for us, but like you realize that rosacea is inflammation and you reduce that inflammation and therefore reduce your rosacea symptoms. But I'm sure if you eat, I think you said gluten.
Gluten and then certain things that have histamines in them.
Yeah.
For me, like spinach, which is a healthy food, but for me, it causes my rosacea to flare.
And so you figured those out. And that's what we kind of get people to do is figure out what your triggers are and then eliminating those. And then at the end of the 8-week boot camp, they've usually improved enough, or after reading our book and implementing it, they've usually improved enough. We then do like a food sensitivity test. And then we really dig down. So when we did our food sensitivity test ourselves, we actually found out we were allergic to peas. And we ate pea protein every single day. And then we were allergic to eggs. So we're mostly vegetarian, but my son eats eggs. My wife eats eggs. I found out I had a 4+ sensitivity to eggs. So I eliminated just those 2 things and I lost 15 pounds. I don't have,
Wow.
I'm 6'2". I was 165 or I was 175. Now I'm 160. So I don't have the weight to lose. But I did because I'm at my more natural weight because I don't have that fluid, that edema, that swelling that it comes with all that inflammation.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that, weight sometimes is attributed to inflammation because I don't think we realize that. Food sensitivities, it's interesting, and I'm glad that you're mentioning that and that you check it because it's different for each person. And like, we mentioned, you're talking about peas. I talked about spinach, and bananas is another one for myself. These can all be, quote unquote, healthy foods, but for each person, the sensitivities can vary. So it's important to address that. So some things you talked about, I want to first tell our listeners that your book, you do have available on your website, but you can also download it as a free PDF. If we go to, it's ilovethesun.com, is that right? Where we can find...
That's the main website. But if you want the free PDF book, all you have to do is go to dryeyebook.com. Not the letter I, EYE.
EYE, right.
dryeyebook.com.
Dryeyebook.com. And I will link to all of these in the show notes too. But I was telling Dr. Travis that I just finished reading the book. It is titled Rethinking Dry Eye Treatment the other day. And I mean, this is something that I really feel like everybody should download or go and grab a paperback copy of the book, because it is about so much more than just dry eye. You think, oh, well, I don't have dry eyes, but you tackle so many things. I took, Dr. Travis, 8 pages of notes on your book.
I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. In preparation for the interview, but I actually found so much. So you talk about, like you mentioned, food, hydration is a big one, making sure that we're staying hydrated. You do talk about inflammation and how to reduce chronic inflammation. You give examples of meal preps and smoothies. And one that I do want to talk about in just a minute is you talk about eliminating toxins, from our personal care products and our environment. So you've tackled so many things in this book: lifestyle modification, sleep. You get into the treatments of dry eye syndrome. And another big one that I think that we all need to think about, again, in this day and age of technology, is just that we are on our devices all the time, staring at our phones, staring at computers, and what that can do to us too. As I said, I want to encourage everybody to go and download that book, because this is a wealth. It's like over 180 pages, and it's an easy read, but there's so much good information there that can help us not just, if you have dry eyes, but to reduce inflammation in your body. And as Dr. Travis said, inflammation can even be something as like holding on to weight that you don't, need to be holding on to. So, Dr. Travis, could you talk to us first, just for a moment, about some of the toxins in your chapter on toxins? This is important, I think, especially for the females in our audience. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that we're doing to our eyes, such as like the makeup and eyelash extensions and things? Can you address that for a minute, and why we have to be really careful with those things?
So that is more of my wife's expertise area,
Okay.
obviously, for obvious
Okay.
reasons, but I can go into it a
Right.
little bit.
Yeah,
So
sure.
with like fake eyelashes, for example, a lot of people use fake eyelashes and they're very trendy right now.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with fake eyelashes is you're putting this glue on your eyelashes, and that glue is straight toxic. And we have had so many people come in to see us in our clinics that they put on fake eyelashes, and the glue caused such a severe reaction to them that we were treating them for almost 2 months, just
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the inflammation down, because you have to get the fake eyelashes off. Sometimes you have to cut the eyelashes off. And so therefore you have no eyelashes afterwards. And so one reason not to do it. But
Mm-hmm.
it creates just so much inflammation on the eyelid itself that it takes a while to calm down. And some people, like, it even takes them longer than 2 months to recover. So it's something that I recommend heavily staying away from, is fake eyelashes. Also, makeup. You really need to go with a trusted source of makeup. We have a blog post that talks about the ones that we recommend. We're actually looking into coming out with a kind of more of a moisturizing blush for patients.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be more of a lotion based instead of, I don't even know what blush is made out of, to tell you the truth, but we're making it more of like a cream made out of natural products like shea butter, and then just having a nice red tint to give you that kind of blush look.
Mm-hmm.
Again, wife's area of expertise, not mine.
Right.
But makeup is huge, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be so toxic. So you need to
Mm-hmm.
go with a trusted brand that you know where it's coming from, and you know that that doesn't have a ton of toxic ingredients. And
Mm-hmm.
to kind of jump over to another area of toxins, the laundry. Our
Mm-hmm.
laundry is filled with toxins, and dryer sheets are probably one of the most toxic things we have in our household, and people use it for everything. And so, what I recommend instead of dryer sheets are organic wool balls, like a sheep wool.
Yes.
And you can get them on Amazon. They're cheap. They're like $10, and they last. We still have ours from 2011, and
Mm-hmm.
so you never have to buy dryer sheets again. And ours have lasted 9 years, and they haven't degraded at all. If you want to add a little scent to them, you just add a little essential oil to the wool ball, put it in your dryer, and we use lavender when we do our sheets, because that creates kind of our bed to be a little more lavender scented. And then with your laundry itself, the washing machine, we use eco nuts. Have you ever heard of eco nuts?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so eco nuts are a berry that were grown in the Andes, and they're organic, and the shell of the berry is a natural soap. And so you're using this berry instead of the laundry detergent, which is also filled with chemicals. And then one other big culprit in our household is what we use to clean with. And like bleach and pine sol and all these sprays that are antibacterial, those are all very toxic to us. And so I recommend just using vinegar. That's simple. That's
Mhm.
all you need is vinegar, and you can clean almost everything with vinegar. Windows makes it is a little tough with windows, but everything else can be cleaned with vinegar.
Yeah, those are really good tips. And I will say, in your book, you do give examples even of essential oil blends and things that people can
Mhm.
use for various things. So, like I said, this is just there's so much information in this book that it can be really valuable to people. How about devices? What are your recommendations? I know in your book you talk about the 20-20-20 rule. Can you speak
Mhm.
to that?
Yeah, we must have connected there because I was actually thinking about, I forgot to go into devices. And so actually our devices are one of our most toxic things too, because not only do they emit EMFs and they're in our pocket all day long, I like to keep my phone on airplane mode unless I'm using it. So right now it's in airplane mode. I'm not expecting any calls right now, and I'll check it usually once an hour just to see any messages. But what that also allows me to do is while I'm working, it keeps me in my flow state and I get my work done 100 times faster than if I'm getting notifications every 2 seconds. So that's just kind of a productivity tip on top of it. But
Mhm.
the 20-20-20 rule, going back to your question, for every 20 minutes that we're sitting there looking at a computer screen or looking at a device, we need to take about 20 seconds to look at something 20 feet away or further. And so when we're looking at something up close, what we're doing is the muscle inside our eye is flexing, and that's bending a lens inside our eye. When we bend that lens inside our eye, we can focus on something up close. And then when we look at something far away, it relaxes everything in our eye. So you've probably noticed that if you're on your device for too long or your computer for too long, that your eyes feel very tired, but
Mhm.
also when you go to look far away, it's blurry.
Yes,
And so
exactly.
that is very common because that muscle gets stuck in contracture and you're contracting that lens and it takes a while for it to relax again. And this, I'll go on a little bit of a kind of side rant. This is also where you see people above that are in their 40s or above that have reading glasses or bifocals. And so that lens that I talked about that we bend to read for up close, that lens adds layers to itself every single day of our lives. As it adds layers, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker. The thicker it gets, the harder it is to bend, the harder it is to focus on something up close. And so therefore you need reading glasses to help you out with that. And so that's another part of it too. And then with devices themselves and computer screens, they emit blue light. Blue light has been known to disrupt your sleep. Blue light has been known to cause macular degeneration, which is degeneration of your central vision, your macula.
Mhm.
And the biggest source of blue light is still the sun. When you're outside, natural blue light's out there. That's why you see the color blue, but it's more abundant than our computer screens and our phones. But it's natural. And so it doesn't cause as much harmful effects as the artificial does. Where when we're on our phones at nighttime, we're actually messing up our circadian rhythm because the sun rises, blue light's emitted, it tells your body to start producing serotonin and to wake up. And then when the sun goes down, blue light's gone from outside. We actually start to convert that serotonin into melatonin and we start to produce more melatonin. And therefore, we go to sleep. Now we have TVs, computers, and smartphones that we look at, and that's got blue light in it. And the problem with that is your body's not getting that signal to go to sleep, and so it will take you longer to get to that REM sleep and that deep sleep that we need to recover our bodies and our minds. And we wake up more and more tired. So my challenge to your listeners will be an hour before bed. I'm not asking for 2 to 3 hours, just an hour before bed. Turn off all devices, computers, phones, and your TV, and read a paperback book. Do some yoga. Just relax. Do some stretching, or just meditate. Just do something very simple, and I guarantee you'll sleep better and you'll wake up more refreshed than you felt in a long time. And then also put your phone in airplane mode when you go to sleep. You don't need notifications throughout the night unless you have kids that might need to get a hold of you or you're an emergency responder or something like that. But you can still put your phone on the other side of the room so you're not tempted to pick it up in the middle of the night and look at it, and then put it into airplane mode if you can.
That's a good tip. The episode that will have aired before yours, we interviewed someone who talks all about EMFs and the dangers of. So this ties right in, and she also suggested, putting our phone on airplane mode as frequently as possible, just to
Mm-hmm.
avoid some of those signals. But it is interesting that you talk about just turning off all the devices before bed, because I find that if I am reading a paperback book rather than watching TV before bed, I always fall asleep when I'm reading because it
Yep.
just helps me to rest and calm down. And if people do, what are your thoughts about blue light blocking glasses? Do you own those or do you recommend those?
Yeah, we actually we're discontinuing them, but we do sell some. Our blue
Okay.
light blockers are 30%.
Mm.
But if you want to get more of the sleep, like if you want to help with more of your sleep, You need to get some that are 95%. That's got that orange tint, kind of
Mm-hmm.
uglier looking, but you don't have to wear them out of the house.
Right.
But yeah, they do work. And then the blue
Mm-hmm.
light filters on your phone and computer, that helps. But
Mm-hmm.
still, shutting it all down is the best
Sure.
way. Shutting it down an hour before bedtime and putting those glasses on once the sun goes down, that's going to give you the best outcome for your best sleep. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
what we recommend. But blue light blockers are a great option as well.
Yeah, I just thought for people who work on a computer for a living or something like that, that might be a good option just to not
Yep.
to decrease that exposure. And before we move on, I do want to address diet quickly because our listeners, of our podcast will be very interested in diet. So in the book, you do talk about reducing inflammation. We talked about food sensitivities. But I see that, pretty heavily in your book, you lean towards a plant-based diet. You talk about following an alkaline diet, and then you also talk about hydration. What is the importance of following more of an alkaline diet or plant-based diet, and then also the significance of making sure we're hydrated?
Yeah, that's great questions. And I think we have another 30 minutes. So no, I'm just kidding. I won't go that long. But Um, so I am obsessed with teaching people how to eat an organic plant-based diet. Now, I'm not going to sit here and spout that veganism is the best and vegetarianism is the best, because every person is an individual and they have to figure out what works best for them.
Mhm.
What I try to get from my patients, from our followers online, and hopefully for your viewers, is if you can replace breakfast with a green smoothie that's heavily plant-based, so lots of spinach. In your case, we might use kale, or
Mhm.
you can use mustard greens or just any kind of green. And if the only fruit I want you to use are berries, and so berries are very low in sugar, and that's kind of the best thing to reduce inflammation. You want to stay away from bananas, especially you. Um, but bananas have high sugar, mangoes have high sugar, pineapples do. So, what I try to do with my patients first is just replace breakfast with a green smoothie. And the reason that is because all breakfast foods are inflammatory.
Mhm.
It's crazy that people are eating sausage, bacon, toast. Eggs are okay if you get them pasture raised. And then cereals are terrible for you. Most oatmeal is bad for you. Um, if you just get oatmeal that's organic and gluten free, then it's going to be a little better. But staying away from all that stuff is huge. And that's why I say the first thing I want you to do is replace your breakfast with a green smoothie, because that's going to lead to healthier choices throughout the day. And so, plants, what they do is they pretty much scrub your whole body of inflammation. Their job is to get rid of inflammation. They also help scrub your intestines, so you're going to have more regular bowel movements. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel lighter. It's going to take away that swelling, that edema that you have. Plants and getting in that alkaline state. Now, when we say alkaline state, we're talking alkaline versus like a base versus an acid. When we're in an acid state, that's what cancer loves to have. That's what disease loves to have. That's what everything loves to have. So you've probably heard of people that were fighting cancer that switched their diet around and their cancer's gone. And that's
Mhm.
because they switched their body into that alkaline state. And that's the cancer fighting state. And plants really help get you into that state. And that's why I love switching to having people really focus on organic vegetables. And so plants to really push that forward. And that's how you help reduce inflammation. Now, I'm not going to tell you that all meat is bad, because it's not. The key thing is most traditional meat that we see in the grocery store now is bad. It's raised on antibiotics. It's grown in crowded factory farms. It's not a healthy environment, and these are force-fed animals. What you want to find is pasture-raised animals, and try to limit meat to once a day and limit it to dinner. So you have that whole 24 hours where you don't eat any meat, and then dinner you have that meat, and make sure it's pasture-raised eggs, chickens, beef, wild caught fish. Those are going to be your healthy meats for you. And if they're pasture raised, they're going to be organic as well. But just try to find those words on there. Pasture raised eggs are $6 for a dozen for a reason. It's because they're well cared for. They taste better. They have more health benefits. And I also recommend eating organic,
Mhm.
because with organic, not only is the food healthier, because it doesn't have pesticides and fertilizers, but it actually has a higher nutrient value most of the time. And so organic is just going to be better for you. Organic spinach has I think it's 100 times the iron of non-organic spinach. That's just one example that I think I give that example in the book. But a plant-based diet, you can do it for ethical reasons too. I'm not going to get into that as much, but I do it because it puts my body in the optimal state to fight disease, fight inflammation, to make me feel better. I used to have eczema really bad. It's completely gone on my new diet and not having any of my sensitivities. That's kind of what I fought. And then I also have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is hypothyroidism. And my last checkup, ever since eliminating, so I've been a vegetarian for about 8 years now. And then my antibodies for my blood work for my thyroid were about a 350. And they've always kind of sat there. And this last checkup I went to, I eliminated all my food sensitivities, which I took that test about a year ago, and my antibodies were down to 100. And so I've almost cured my thyroid naturally just through eliminating sensitivities and getting my body into that inflammatory fighting state. My next step was the coffee thing. And so I've switched to decaf. I haven't had caffeine in 7 days. Days 4 and 5 are rough, but I've made it through it, and we still drink decaf. So I still get that coffee taste that relaxes me, and I'm eliminating the caffeine, which has been great too. So I'll pause there just to let your listeners absorb all that. And then I'll go into hydration and see if you have any questions or comments or anything.
Now we'd like to take a minute to give a shout out to our show partners, Perfect Supplements and Amazon. Perfect Supplements is a family-owned and operated business that supports local farms. Their superfoods and supplements are non-GMO, third-party tested for purity, and contain no synthetic ingredients, colors, or flavors. They're also organic or wild harvested and fairly traded. Products range from collagen and bone broth powders to plant proteins, greens, desiccated liver, and adaptogenic herbs. Perfect also carries vitamins and supplements from other reputable sources like Just Thrive, Dr. Mercola, Gaia Herbs, Green Pastures, Garden of Life, and Prescript Assist. To check out their wide array of products, go to perfectsupplements.com/Kim. If you use coupon code KIM10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. This is a great way to get superfood nutrition while helping to support our podcast. And just as a disclaimer, it's not the intention of our podcast to provide specific medical advice, but rather to provide you with information to better understand the role of dietary supplements in health. We urge you to consult with a qualified health provider to discuss both the advantages and risks of using dietary supplements. Our other show partner, Amazon, is the largest online warehouse and carries just about everything you need. If you shop on Amazon, which is likely, you can support our show at the same time at no additional cost to you. Simply use our affiliate link to enter the site, then browse and buy, just as you normally would. A Whole New You podcast will make a small commission from your purchase, which helps to support production costs for the show. You can find a clickable Amazon link in the show notes for this episode. You can also go to the products page of our website, awholenewyouPodcast.com, to find the link. If you love our show and appreciate the free information you get each week, please consider buying from Perfect or using our affiliate link when making purchases on Amazon. Now let's get back to the show. Is there a specific food sensitivity test that you recommend or that you administer?
So there's a lot of options out there. We sell on our website the KBMO test. We charge about $500 for it, so I realize that's on the high end for some people. But we don't just give you the test; you also get a consultation with us, and so we go over the test results with you, kind of develop a little plan around okay, you're sensitive to bananas. This is what we need to do in place of bananas. This is how you can replace that food. Okay, you're sensitive to peas. These are the foods you need to avoid. Because a lot of people think oh, I'm sensitive to wheat or gluten, and I just need to avoid bread. And that's not the case at all, because wheat and gluten are in everything. And if you've ever looked at a label and seen, or if you've seen on the label natural flavors, that usually has wheat or gluten in it. So you have to be very careful. And so I've learned that because that's a 4+ sensitivity in my book. And that's really what flares up my eczema. And another example is beer. Beers, I love a good microbrewery,
Yeah.
but I've eliminated beer because it causes so many problems. It causes me to have arthritis. It causes me to have eczema. So I recommend ours, but you can pick one up at Target now. I think now it has one for like $100. And so if you just want the results, then just go there. If you want the results plus a consultation, you can go to our website. But I think ours tests for 100. I think
Mm.
92 different food sensitivities, including like fillings and seasonings and everything.
Yeah, and I think the consultation part is very helpful too,
Hmm.
because as you mentioned, sometimes even the things that come back, we may not understand what they are. They could be like preservatives or um, things in foods that we're not familiar with. So having that consultation is helpful. So as far as hydration goes, how much water do you recommend that people consume?
It's the common saying is, half your body weight in ounces of water, but that's very confusing to people. So if I weigh 160 pounds, I need to drink 80 ounces of water, which ends up being about, off the top of my head, 10 cups. Oh, yeah, that's easy math. 10 times 8. So I need to use 10 8-ounce cups, but most of our cups are 16 ounces now. So
Yeah.
what I recommend doing is I have a 20-ounce steel bottle. I have two of those sitting on my desk at all times. Um, when you wake up, do what I like to call hyperhydration. Right when you wake up, before you do anything else, you want to drink 16 to 32 ounces of water. What that does is it's just going to boost your metabolism. It's going to be essentially as good as a workout for your metabolism. And so, if you want to lose weight, if you're trying to lose like that water weight, water is the best way to do that. And if you do that right when you wake up in the morning, 16 to 32 ounces, you're going to start feeling better. It's going to lift that brain fog that you have in the morning, and you're just going to feel better throughout the day. So, after the hyperhydration, what I recommend doing is before every meal that you eat, try to drink 16 ounces of kind of room temperature water, 16 ounces before every meal. That's going to help with digestion. It's also going to help you so you don't eat as much. You're going to feel fuller sooner. That's why we do it 10 minutes beforehand, because we tend to overeat because our brain is delayed from our stomach about by 10 minutes. And so if you drink water 10 minutes before the meal, it's going to make you feel a little full before you even dig into the meal, which is going to make you eat less, which is good because we all tend to overeat when we are just sitting there eating and not really thinking about it. So I always recommend hyperhydration, 16 to 32 ounces right when you wake up, and then 16 ounces before every meal. And that's usually enough for people to meet their allotment. And then I usually drink, 8 to 16 ounces of room temperature water right after dinner as well. And then that's the last thing I'll drink. So 5:30 p.m., that's the last thing I drink at night. And then I don't drink anything else until the next morning. And that's because I don't like to get up.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But that's helpful. It's a good rule of thumb. I had read about the hyperhydration on your website, and I have started doing that. I always kept lemon water at my bedside so that I could drink it first thing in the morning. But it is remarkable how much better you feel, and it starts to get things moving, if you know what I mean,
Hmm.
too. So that's really helpful. Also, in your book, you do talk a little bit about supplements, and I know that on your website, ilovethesun.com, you have some supplements as well as some other products that people can purchase. Can you talk to us a little bit about the things that you carry? You can talk about the supplements first if you want, and what the significance of making sure that we're supplementing.
So here's the crazy thing about like the supplements that I recommend. I don't recommend any of the supplements that we sell until like seventh or eighth on the list.
Okay.
And it's because they're not the most important thing when you're battling dry eye, and they're not the most important thing when you're, dealing with inflammation and disease. We sell an omega-3. We also sell what's called an Areds 2, an age-related eye disease study supplement,
Hmm.
and that's good for macular degeneration. It's got lutein and zeaxanthin. Those are called phytochemicals.
Hmm.
Those are antioxidants that help kind of scrape your body of free radicals. So we sell both of those supplements, but the number one supplement I recommend is actually a greens powder. And so there's a couple different greens powders that I recommend. Dr. Anna Cabeca's Mighty Maca is a
Hmm.
great greens powder. Nested Naturals Super Greens makes another great greens powder. Both of them use organic ingredients, but a greens powder, and if you put 1 to 2 scoops in your smoothie, 1 scoop if it's just you, 2 scoops if you're making it for you and someone else, um, that can give you so much energy throughout the day. The key thing with greens is that I always recommend a food sensitivity test beforehand because, again, I had a 4+ sensitivity to spirulina, and it's in almost all greens powders. But I haven't seen that sensitivity on anybody else that we've run it on. It's just me, of course, because I'm unique like that. But a greens powder is so great for just making your body feel better and really getting a good dose of, kale, spinach, and you have to watch out for spinach if you're sensitive to it. Barley grass, wheatgrass. There's so many good things in greens powders that's going to make you feel so much better. And then number 2 I recommend is probiotics. And so that's the first supplement I take right when I wake up. So hyperhydration, I take my probiotic, and then I go on with the rest of my day. I also take a vitamin D in the morning on an empty stomach as well. Um, and then when I'm drinking my smoothie, I take my multivitamin. And so I don't recommend most pill forms of multivitamins just because they're crap.
Mhm.
Most cheap multivitamins that are out there they're just no good. You need to have either a powdered form and make sure it's a whole foods based multivitamin. I recommend Healthy Cell Bioactive Multi. It's actually a gel, and they come in little individual packs, and they work really well for that. And they're whole foods based, and they're very easy to take. They taste pretty good as well. They have like a berry flavor, and you can put that right in your smoothie, or you can just drink it straight. And so, um, greens powder, probiotic, multivitamin, and then I talked briefly about the vitamin D because we all don't get enough sun anymore. So vitamin D is almost always low in everybody's blood work. I guarantee you, if you go have your blood work done, it's low in vitamin D. And then I'll jump into magnesium. So we don't get enough magnesium because there's not enough organic vegetation that we eat anymore. And magnesium's scarce now. So I use a magnesium spray, and I actually spray it on my chest before I go to bed at night. And that helps you go to sleep as well. You can also spray it on sore muscles, and that will help. Magnesium does tingle a little bit. So um, you may notice that sensitivity on your skin right when you notice it, or right when you put it on for the first time. And then with dry eye, then I recommend my lutein, my zeaxanthin, and my omega-3. But I really think having that base, and if you have a supplement budget, focusing on the greens powder first, probiotic second, and then your multivitamin third, and then go down with all these other ones as well. And I have all this listed on my website. If you go to rethinkingdryeye.com, it actually forwards you to a page on my website that's actually an exclusive page that only book readers can get to, but it has our updated list of all the supplements that we recommend, and kind of goes through everything in our book. So you can kind of check that website out, and it will go through the supplement list that I just kind of went over right there.
That's really helpful, and it's helpful to have, like, kind of an order of importance too, because I do think that we hear about so many different kinds of supplements that would be good for us, and like you said, you can break the bank on it because there are just so many things that are quote unquote helpful for us. Um, but I appreciate having, and especially that you talked about the greens powder, that also helps to alkalinize our diet as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what a helpful combination. I want to talk to you a little bit about your charity because I
Yeah.
think that's an important part of your work, the I Love Cares Foundation. Who does your foundation primarily serve?
Yeah, so the foundation is it's our why. It's why we do. It's why we wake up in the morning. We love helping the millions of dry eye sufferers out there, but everything goes back to the charity, and we serve people that can neither afford nor obtain eye exams, glasses, and sunglasses. And what that means is just there's close to 1 billion people in this world that are blind due to a lack of glasses. So
Mm,
glasses that you and I can, a simple pair of reading glasses that we can go to the store and buy and put on, that causes more blindness than almost anything else in the world. And the example I always give is, think of a fisherman. A fisherman needs to line a hook and then tie that line and then to fish. And his whole job is to catch fish to sell, and that's how he makes his living. Well, when that fisherman hits 40 to 50 years old, he loses that ability to be able to line that hook. He therefore loses his job. He then becomes a beggar on the streets and therefore loses the income for his family. And all we have to do is give him a pair of plus 250 reading glasses, and he can see again. He can go back to work, not beg anymore, and go back to fishing. That's the impact that this has. And that's what our charity goes back to. So right now, we started the charity about 4 years ago. It really works on what are called MASH clinics, where we go into an area, we set up a clinic for a week, and then we leave. Not very sustainable, but it helps really get the people that really need care. Our goal eventually is to create a school down in the Caribbean to teach people how to go out into their communities to fit people with reading glasses. And if they can't fit them in reading glasses or get them seeing at their home, then to send them back into a hub. And that hub, they can be diagnosed with things like cataracts, glaucoma, or any other problems that might need further intervention. That's our big, hairy, audacious goal, is to create that school. There's actually a very successful school that does this over in the Fiji Islands, because there's like 10,000 islands over there. And so they created a main central hub. And on that hub, they teach people not to become doctors, just to become dispensers of reading glasses, essentially. And they go back out into their communities or their islands. They do that. And then people that need further care, they send them to the main hub, which is a school. And that's where they do further diagnosis, further treatment, further surgeries if needed. And so that's who we're trying to serve. But we don't just do it in third world countries. We focus in Jamaica right now, and we love the Caribbean. But we also did it in South Carolina, where we worked at a free clinic down there. And so this isn't just, we don't just donate the money. We actually are down there. We go 2 to 3 times a year to different third world countries to do these clinics. So we get to see the world, which is a beautiful thing. We get to interact with cultures that are different from ours, but then we get to serve humanity at the highest value that we can with giving them their eyesight back, which is one of my favorite things to do. And it's just a lot of fun. So long answer to your question, but I hope that made sense.
It sure did, yeah. And what a service to provide people, because I think we really take for granted, the ability to get to an eye doctor. I personally am super nearsighted, and I would be one of those people who would be blind without help. And now that I'm in my 40s, I need reading glasses. And you're right, I would not be able to thread a fishing hook or a needle or anything without that. And it's something that I don't think we think about, living in this first world country. But there are pockets of need throughout the country, and just kudos to you and your wife for serving people the way that you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, very impressive. I've also noticed that on your website, ilovecares.org, you have a lot of information. Just it is a good resource for people to look at, not just for dry eyes. Are there other eye conditions that maybe you address on the website that people might be able to go to if they're interested?
Yeah, so the main thing that we address on both of our websites is dry eye blepharitis, which is inflammation of your eyelids. If you have dry, scaly eyelids, then we have a lot of information on that. And then there's meibomian gland dysfunction, which is another eyelid condition. And so if you've ever been told that you have MGD or meibomian gland dysfunction, we address that. We address Demodex eyelash mites. Yes, you have eyelash mites, even you. And it's something that makes people a little itchy, but they're pretty benign. They don't really cause any problems until they do. And most of the time we see the problems in patients that are, over the age of 70, because they might be immunocompromised or something. And that's when they're opportunistic. So they're going to come out a little bit more. And that appears as the same as other eyelid problems like blepharitis, inflammation of the eyelids. So we have a lot of information on all that. We talk about styes a lot. Styes are huge. I didn't realize how many people got styes until we started writing articles on them, and we saw how much traffic those articles get. And our YouTube channel gets a ton of viewers on the sty articles. They actually get probably the most out of any article that we write. And I didn't realize how many people got styes. I just realized that we didn't see as many in our practice as we probably should have, because most people just don't come in to see us when they have a sty. But we have a lot of article on styes and eyelid bumps. And then we talk a little bit about macular degeneration as well. Macular degeneration, again, a loss of the central part of your vision called the macula. The macula is how you see 20/20 vision. That's where all light is focused when you're looking at something. And then if you have glaucoma, we have a couple articles on glaucoma. We don't dive into glaucoma too deep. And then, of course, like you mentioned before, our book is titled Rethinking Dry Eye Treatment, but you could really take dry eye and eliminate that word and put any disease in there. You could put high blood pressure, diabetes, glaucoma, not glaucoma as much, but diabetes, high blood pressure, all these inflammatory conditions, and really help out cholesterol even. And our book helps with that. We just focus it around dry eye because that's who we serve.
What a great resource. So I encourage our listeners to go there. Can you just review for us your websites and how people can find you?
Yeah, so I have a lot of like links because they all forward back to our main website. I just wanted to make it easier for listeners to find them. So if you want to get our free Rethinking Dry Eye Treatment PDF book, you can go to dryeyebook.com. That's dryeyebook.com and EYE instead of the letter I. Thank you, Apple, for that misnomer that we now have to deal with.
Yeah.
And then the resource behind our book is called rethinkingdryeye.com. And that gives you everything that we recommend. That's our updated supplement list. But it's got the meal charts. It's got exercise routines on that page that you can actually do. They're YouTube videos. So you just click them and you watch them from that page. It talks about the toxins that we talked about earlier. Talks about getting better sleep. And then, of course, your typical dry eye treatment as well. And then we also talk about stress reduction. We go into that quite a bit. So dryeyebook.com, rethinkingdryeye.com, and then our website is ilovethesun.com. And again, EYE, lovethesun.com. We actually were originally a sunglass company, and we've morphed into a dry eye company, hence the URL ilovethesun.com.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Travis, thank you so much for joining us today. I have learned so much from you, not only through your book, but through our conversation today. And I just wish you all the best. And I hope that your charity continues to boom and that you can help so many people.
All right. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks.
That's it for today. For more from Kim, you can go to kimmaravich.com. For more from Lori, go to simplympoweredllc.com. We're always open to listener questions or suggestions for the show. You can email those to contact@awholenewyoupodcast.com. We'd also love it if you joined our Facebook community and followed us on Instagram. Just search for A Whole New You Podcast. And lastly, if you'd be so kind as to leave us a rating and review in iTunes, we would really appreciate that so more people can find our show and join our community. We'll see you next week.